Welcome to the Armed and Ready podcast. I am your host, Jason Wood, the VA loan guy. We have a really exciting episode lined up for you, so come check it out. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Armed and Ready podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wood, the VA loan guy. Today we have a special honor. We have retired Brigadier General Michael Aguilar with us. And sir, we are so excited to have you with us. Thank you so much for spending a little time with us today.
Well, Jason, thank you for having me, and it's my pleasure.
I don't get too many generals on the Armed and Ready podcast, so a little starstruck, no pun intended. But tell us a little bit about your military career. You're a career Marine, and obviously got up to the general ranks, which is, not very many people get into that level of a rank. So tell us a little bit, how'd you get into the military? What was kind of that decision-making process for you, and walk us through your career a little.
Sure. Well, and thanks, Jason, for that opportunity. Yeah, I was motivated at a young age to join the military, wanting to be a pilot. That was because of my dad, my father. He was a veteran, World War II veteran, a gunner in B-26s during World War II.
Wow.
So he shared with me his experience and having served in the military. So that motivated me to serve the country. And so at a very young age, I made a decision that I wanted to be a military pilot. And I was very fortunate, to have my childhood dreams be achieved through the Marine Corps. It made it even more special, being able to be a pilot, but a Marine Corps pilot. So I joined the Marine Corps while I was in college in '69, got my commission in '71, went to Pensacola, Florida, where all Marines go for their flight training. And I ended up flying helicopters, starting off in Huey helicopters and then finishing the bulk of my career flying AH-1 Cobra helicopters. So I had your typical career, a lot of time in the squadron, serving a variety of billets within the squadron, to eventually become a squadron commanding officer. I commanded HMLA 267, continued to progress in my career and got promoted to a rank colonel where I could command an air group. So I commanded Marine Aircraft Group 39. And then I was told that I needed to go to Washington to pay my pound of flesh, as every officer has to. And I was fortunate while I was in Washington, D.C. to be selected for general officer and rounded out my career as a brigadier general in the Marine Corps after 31 years. 4,000 hours of flight time, and an absolutely wonderful opportunity in the Marine Corps and to serve the nation.
Wow, what a career. It's interesting having served in the military, and those of us that are watching or listening, know that, getting to the colonel rank is a big threshold in any of the branches, right? Because there's just, as you go up in those ranks, there's less leadership positions, right? So there's not as many full birds. And then obviously in the general officer rank, that's pretty exciting. Years ago, I got to play golf with a brigadier general, and gave me the coolest challenge coin that I've received, which is one of his challenge coins, and it's my favorite one to this day. But he had some interesting stories to share with me too. But I'm curious to know, while you were serving and obviously flying helicopters, I'm sure many deployments over those years. What was one of like your most scary moments as you were serving, whether while you're flying or maybe on a deployment?
Well, I'm a veteran of the Gulf War, but my scariest moments while I served was telling to have to tell the family I'm going overseas again. Oh. That's always the scariest moment. Leaving the family and the wife, to pick up everything that's required here to run a household.
Yeah.
But seriously, flying, of course, is dangerous by itself, especially helicopters.
Yeah.
It's a rotating system over your head, and flying aboard ship, which I did quite a bit, several deployments on board ship. Just flying helicopters at night, especially before we had the night vision goggles were provided you some additional visibility. That became, in and of itself, pretty challenging. And of course, the Gulf War was, as you could well expect, a challenging exercise.
I can only imagine, trying to land a helicopter on a boat, especially when the seas aren't calm. Um, there must have been, some hairy landings, at least in training, I can imagine, before you got proficient at it. And I know I've seen some different videos and stuff online of, some rough ones. But the Gulf War, I mean, you hear a lot of stories, especially on the aviation sector, of being in the desert, being in the sandbox, right? And just the impact that environment has on aircraft and the maintenance and stuff like that. Was that a particular challenge or issue for you guys while you were there?
Oh, absolutely. The weather was just played havoc with us. Of course, very hot, very dry out in the desert. And of course, the sand out in the area where we were operating is very fine. And so, taking off and landing, it really wore on the rotor systems, the leading edge of the rotor systems. It's like sandpaper going over that. So it's, with all the dust and, like I said, this sandpaper effect that the wind and sand had on the control surfaces was really a challenge. But we had a great and continue to have a great set of troops that know how to maintain the aircraft and keep them safe for the pilots. So we, as typical and as you would expect, overcame any of the challenges that we faced.
Right. What was one of your most fun times in the military, or fun places that you got to go, most memorable?
Well, I'll tell you, probably the most enjoyable, except I wasn't flying, surprisingly, to be my most enjoyable, was I had, I think, still the distinction of being the only aviator to run the drill instructor school down here at MCRD San Diego.
Yeah.
It's normally you don't put many pilots down at the recruit depots, but as a major, I had my staff assignment down at the recruit depot here in San Diego. And I was fortunate to have the opportunity to run the drill instructor school. So that was such a great privilege and honor to do that. But it was just a lot of fun, not only to help train and motivate those Marines that would train our youth that would become Marines. It was great, just a very inspiring opportunity for me. So, except for the fact that I wasn't in the cockpit, that probably was my most enjoyable assignment I had in the Marine Corps.
That's interesting to hear. And I think a lot of us, when we think back to basic training, that's, one of the most intimidating times of our service, right? Especially as a young person going into this unknown world of the military and, and everything you hear kind of through the rumor mill of, going to basic training and your drill instructor and all that stuff. So it's fascinating to me to hear you say on the instructor side, that was one of your most enjoyable things. Because, when you're going through it, your drill instructors just seem like they hate life because they act like they hate you the whole time, So it's kind of fun to hear that it was something that really brought you some joy in your career.
Well, it really, and I'll be quite honest with you, they're great Marines, really great people and just motivated. And they all realized that they had one purpose there and one purpose only, and that was to make Marines, and that's what they were committed to. And they do a great job of making Marines.
So you retired and now are you living in the San Diego area now?
I am. I had many years ago decided that I would retire here. I'm a native Californian. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. Oh. So I'm a Southern California boy. And I just love the Southern California and just fell in love with San Diego, of course.
Yeah. You hear that all the time. Oh, you live in San Diego. I feel sorry for you.
Exactly.
So tell us what you're up to today. I know you're running some air museum stuff. So give us the scoop on that.
Sure. Well, after I retired from the Marine Corps, I stayed in federal government for 11 years, retired from that. And then I got involved in the Flying Leatherneck Historical Foundation. That's a foundation that the last 20 years here in San Diego has been supporting the Marine Corps Air Station Miramar Command Museum. That's the aviation museum that's located here at Miramar.
Gotcha.
So I got involved in that around 5, 6 years ago, and I've been doing that often along with some consulting since that time. Right now, unfortunately, in 2020, late 2020, we were informed by the commanding officer of Miramar, who owns the museum, that due to financial constraints and limitations, he would have to close the museum. He just couldn't afford to do that, even though the foundation was responsible for the day-to-day operations of the museum and financially supported and augmented the cost associated with the museum. So when we were informed of those plans, the foundation started working with the Marine Corps to hopefully find an alternative to closure. And that included taking over the museum as a private entity here on base, or to relocate it. Due to circumstances beyond our control, we were unable to reach an agreement for us to continue to operate as a private entity the museum on the air station. But we were fortunate in early 2021 to be contacted by the city of Irvine, who is now the owner of the former Marine Corps Air Station El Toro up in Irvine, now referred to as Great Park, of their plans and desires to open an aviation museum, and they were interested in moving that the Miramar Museum collection to El Toro. Little side note, El Toro, before it closed, that's actually where the museum started in 1989.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and so with the BRAC closure in 99, the air station, along with the museum, moved down here to Miramar. So it's the original home of the museum, and the city was very anxious to relocate the museum back to Irvine. So we've been working with the Marine Corps since last year to come to an agreement and arrangements that would allow us being the foundation and the city, to have that collection be lent to us and relocate the museum up to El Toro. The museum closed its doors here at Miramar in April. We continued to work with the Marine Corps throughout the summer to develop a plan and demonstrate that we'd be able to take over the operations and maintain the collection. So last December, the Marine Corps provided us a letter of intent and their commitment to lending us the aircraft collection and artifact collection to be relocated up in El Toro. So that's wonderful news. We've saved the museum, because had we not been able to reach that agreement, this collection, which is the only collection honoring Marine Corps aviation, would have been disbanded and dispersed to other museums, and those artifacts and aircraft that did not find homes were headed for the scrap heap.
Oh my gosh!
So we're just thrilled that the Marine Corps approved our proposal. So we have a public-private partnership now in the works between the city, the foundation, and the Marine Corps to relocate the museum up to El Toro.
Well, that's a great victory that you're able to keep all that aviation history together, right? Rather than the alternative and some of that going to the scrapyard. That'd be heartbreaking, I'm sure, for so many.
Oh, absolutely. And let me also interject. It wasn't just the city and the foundation. We had wonderful support from the San Diego congressional delegation, specifically Congressman Peters and Isa were very helpful in working with us and share our message and desires with the Marine Corps. And then when we started talking to the city of Irvine, Congresswoman Porter was equally supportive. So we really were able to achieve this agreement, this pending agreement, with a great deal of congressional support and a lot of grassroots support. We had an ongoing grassroots effort and campaign, which I think the Marine Corps heard loud and clear on the support we had, not only public, but federal and other support for this museum.
That's really great. It's great to see. What does it look like from, the logistics standpoint of actually moving a museum of airplanes? I mean, we're not moving little tiny things in a glass case, right? I mean, these things have some size to them.
They do. The good news is it's been done once before when it moved from El Toro down to Miramar.
Okay.
So now we're just reversing that trip, but it's a rather involved, as you can well imagine, and you're alluding to, very involved to move, especially some of the larger aircraft we have. And it goes along with some dismantlement of the aircraft to fit them on the ground transportation equipment. Not everything's going to fit underneath the overpasses. So the good news is there are transportation companies that do this all the time.
No kidding.
And we've worked with one of them, and we have a couple of bids that are out there right now looking to move them. So it's not an easy task, but I will share with you here recently, one of the companies we're talking to just recently moved a B-52 some distance. So it can be done. We don't have anything as large as the B-52, but we're confident that they'll be able to transport all the aircraft and the artifacts and other equipment necessary to relocate the museum.
Oh, that's neat. I mean, probably be quite a spectacle just to see them, getting these things on the trucks and moving them and stuff.
It's going to be a parade, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the largest aircraft in the collection?
Well, the largest one we have is commonly referred to as a flying boxcar. You may be familiar with that. It looks like a boxcar. It's a flying one. That's the largest one we have. Then after that, the civilian DC-3 C-47 from World War II. Though that, and then the CH-53 helicopter. Those are the largest aircraft that we have.
Gotcha. And I imagine, at one point all of these were operational in their day, right?
Oh, they were. No, absolutely. These were all military operational aircraft. Many of them have a very interesting history with them. In fact, I will share with you one of our most historically significant aircraft and the history behind that. It's the CH-46. It's an iconic Marine Corps Vietnam aircraft. Tandem rotor, a big rotor in the front and the back. The Army's version is the CH-47, a much larger aircraft. But for the Marine Corps, it was the CH-46. This particular aircraft, which goes by the call sign of Lady Ace 09, that was the side number and the squadron call sign for this aircraft. It is the aircraft that flew the American ambassador and the American flag out of Vietnam. So that one's a very significant aircraft, historically significant aircraft that's in the collection that, again, flew the American ambassador and the American flag out of Vietnam. And, of course, all the other aircraft that we have here have a long and very interesting history with them. In fact, one of the Cobras that's in the collection, I actually have flight time in it. So,
oh, no way.
So both of us ended up in a museum.
Well, I don't know if that makes you feel very young, but that's a neat thing.
Yeah, so no, but they all have a great history, and they were all operational.
Are there many World War II aircraft in the collection?
The Marine Corps aviation really came into its own in World War II. Prior to that, of course, we did participate, in the Banana Wars down in Central America and in World War I. But the real history of Marine Corps aviation, I think, came about with World War II and the close air support that it provided to the Marines during the island campaign. So we have quite a few World War II and beyond aircraft in our collection. Moving on into Korea and the introduction of vertical lift helicopters. We have several Korean helicopters that flew, and of course, fixed wing aircraft that flew during Korea, and of course a large number of aircraft from Vietnam, and now the Gulf War with the F-18 and AV-8 aircraft that we have.
Well, would those two probably be the newest, I guess, aircraft that are in the collection?
And yes, they are. The F-18 is in there right now. We need another AV-8, but those would be the latest ones that we have, and we're hoping to acquire here shortly an AH-1W. It's the latest Cobra. In fact, the last one I flew, and that's when that one has now been replaced by the AH-1 Zulu. So the W is no longer in service, and that would be, along with the Hornet, the two latest models that we have of aircraft. One helicopter and one fixed wing.
Nice, yeah, and they still flying Cobras and F-18, just obviously more recent versions, right? And the AV-8, that's completely retired. That doesn't fly anymore. Is that right?
No, we're in the process of replacing the AV-8s and the F-18s with the F-35.
Right.
Joint Strike Fighter. So yeah, that process is ongoing. They are operational, and we are deploying them now with the fleet, the F-35s.
Yeah, I saw the F-35s. I didn't know that the AV-8 was still operational.
Yeah, and I apologize. I should probably be more up to date, but I'm not sure if all the AV-8 squadrons have been replaced yet. I think we're still doing that transition.
Gotcha. Well, that's fascinating. What's the expected time to be up and running in the new location?
Well, we're making great progress. In fact, this morning I just had a bi-weekly meeting with the city of Irvine, and I spoke with the Marine Corps. From the Marine Corps standpoint of progress here, we're trying to complete a memorandum of understanding that will solidify the lending agreement between the city, the foundation, and the Marine Corps. So that's in works, and I'm hoping to have that completed hopefully by this month, but we'll see how that moves along. So that's just getting all the legal documents and everything lined up. The city, in the meantime, has committed $6.9 million to the initial architectural and engineering plans for the new museum, which is part of a larger project that the city has at Great Park. The area where the museum's located is called the Cultural Terrace. It's around 110, 150 acres of property with 3 facilities on it. One of the facilities, a 215,000 square foot World War II hangar.
Wow.
Yeah, very large. In fact, we could stuff the entire 40 aircraft collection inside the 2 hangar bays. It's going to be spread out, of course, but if we needed to, we could stuff everything in there. But they've committed, the city, $6.9 million to the architectural and engineering plans for the restoration and refurbishment of the hangar and the surrounding grounds, and of course, the other 2 facilities that are there. They're moving very quickly with that. We have a meeting with the architectural team Monday to share with them our needs and desires for our hangar, and we'll lay out a timeline. We are very aggressively targeting what we refer to as a soft opening in the summer of 2023. We'll see how far we can get with the restoration and refurbishment. They're in the process of completing and continuing to do an assessment of the structural integrity of the facilities and see how much compliance needs to be done to bring these old buildings up to current construction and occupational standards and occupancy standards. We'll have a restoration and work center in there, so we'll have a lot that needs to be done to bring them up to current code. But we're shooting, again, very aggressively for a soft opening of late summer 2023.
Well, man, yeah, that's aggressive, and I hope it happens. I mean, we'd love to come up there and check it out. So we'll definitely need to stay connected with all that in the soft opening and grand opening as well. We'd love to come see it and check out this great collection. I had a question that was just in my mind. I think about my military service, and I think a lot of others who have career aspirations in the military. And I think obviously, reaching a general rank is definitely something that, a little bit glamorous, but exciting and, kind of up there. And from your perspective, sir, what would you advise a young person in the military who maybe has aspirations of achieving, that level, that would be encouraging for them or help them in their path or their career?
Well, I guess I got to start off with the honest answer as to why you really joined. And of course, I wanted to serve. I felt a great deal of obligation towards the nation. I'm a 2.5 or 1.5 second or generation Mexican. My mother was born in Mexico. My dad was born in California, and so I was brought up with an appreciation and gratitude for what the country provided my family.
Sure.
And of course, my career and my brothers and sisters' careers, equally successful, I think speak volumes to the opportunities the nation provides. And I, at an early age, believed that was worth defending. And so, but having said that, motherhood and apple pie, I will have to tell you, I and probably a lot of people join the military for the adventure. It's an adventurous opportunity to do things that other individuals would never have the opportunity to do. Again, motivated by an understanding and appreciation of the freedoms we have and what it takes to protect these freedoms and gifts that the nation provides us. But at the end of the day, as a young kid, it's adventure and it's fun to be able to jump into an aircraft and be in control of that situation and train. And as you go through your career, you kind of, at least I did, you kind of recognize that having fun takes a lot of work.
Sure.
And it takes a whole process and a system apparatus to make it work properly. And as you move along in your career, you recognize the skills that you're learning, not only in management and dealing with people, but technical skills. You just develop a greater appreciation for that and your opportunity to contribute to that institution. So you start off for the fun of it, and then you realize that fun takes work, so you become a real nose to the grindstone to work to keep this great institution that supports this great nation going. So that's what I tell people. For me, I joined for the fun, and then you realize that this is a profession, a very serious profession, and you will learn so much in dealing with people, managing resources, managing assets, working a budget, all those things
right.
that it takes to run a large organization, and you really develop an appreciation and commitment to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great advice, and I think that there's a lot of similarity in the way that people, join the military, right? Is, that love of country and seeking the adventure. And as we have guests and stuff on the podcast, we hear that time and time again, and it really is something special. And so it's really neat. And sir, I just appreciate you spending some time with us today on our podcast and sharing your story, telling us about the museum. And thank you, sir, for your dedicated service to our country. We really appreciate having you on.
Jason, thank you. I will ask your listeners, please follow us on our progress in relocating it. Our website is www, all one word, flyingleathernecks with an S.org. So we have a website, and on the page we update people on our progress. So please look at our website, keep updated on where we're moving, and start looking at that time frame of 2023 when we're going to be hopefully opening the doors. And we'll certainly let everyone know when the parade of aircraft up the freeway takes place.
Oh, that'll be exciting. Yeah, please do. And we'll be following you and spreading that message, through our audience and stuff too. So we hope everybody can follow along and watch this incredible move. It's going to be great.
Okay, Jason. Well, thank you for the opportunity, and good luck to you.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Thanks so much for checking out this week's episode. Please subscribe, click the link below, share with your friends. And hey, if you know a military person or a veteran with a great story to share, we would love to highlight them on the podcast and get their story out to everybody. Thanks so much.